Welcome to the Tay and Todd Washington Commanders podcast, and this is your co-host Tay, brought to you by Fansided. And Todd, we're about a week, almost a weekend from the tampering period of last week, and we have Carson Wentz as our starting quarterback. We have some dismissal of some free agents, some we didn't want to see. We had a surprising cut in Landon Collins. And Todd, how are you feeling about this offseason so far? I know we had the initial reaction about Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
It was a kind of gloomy one, some hit or miss, some yay, some nay. But going a week into free agency, how are you feeling? What's going on? Are you excited? Are you pumped up? Are you saying, are you content? Are you satisfied? What would be a word to sum up the first week of free agency and head into the offseason right now?
That's a good question. Actually, the word's coming to me pretty easily, and the word is confused. So, and let me explain, right? So I am not one of those people who wants the Commanders to go into free agency and to start spending, truckloads of money. We saw what the Jaguars did, and we've seen actual data that suggests that the more you spend in free agency, if anything, guarantees the less success you'll have. So I didn't want them to go crazy in free agency. That wasn't what I hoped for. And I expected them to kind of go, bargain bin shopping, maybe one, maybe two bigger name guys or bigger contracts. When I say big, I really don't mean big, but just bigger. But they have signed one player who is a guard, who is a good player, to replace, I don't know if it's to replace Sheriff or Flowers, but not even to add to your team, just to replace what you lost. One player, Tay. And sure, we don't know if they're done. If you ask someone like JP Finley, he said that they're done effectively. I am surprised not at the amount of money they haven't spent, but at the amount of players they haven't added, considering the depth that they've lost and the depth that they've needed to add. So, I'm surprised that Brandon Sheriff, I'm not surprised Brandon Sheriff left, but Brandon Sheriff left. You had to release DeShazer Everett. You cut Landon Collins. You cut Eric Flowers, which was surprising. You cut Matt Ioannidis, which was surprising. You didn't re-sign Tim Settle, who was very cheap. Ricky Seals-Jones walked. And all you've added is Andrew Norwell. I'm surprised that they haven't signed some cheap linebacker. I'm surprised that they haven't signed a cheap swing tackle. And again, there's still time. So obviously, because Cornelius Lucas is a free agent and he was your swing tackle. I'm surprised that we haven't heard any talk about tight end, considering Logan Thomas is coming off of ACL. Ricky Seals-Jones left. Sammis Reyes, shouldn't have really any expectations from him. And John Bates showed something, but he's still just going into his second year. I'm surprised. And then adding to that the fact that they have only 5 draft picks, which sure they could trade back and add more. But I am a little confused, and the offseason's not over, but the question is, why wait to sign these cheap contracts? So that kind of makes you think that they are content. And so I'm confused, Tay. I'm shooting the question right back to you.
I'm going to say behoove, maybe.
You might have to explain to people what that means.
No, let's not use that one. I'm just going to say I'm going to say confused, but I would say I kind of get it. So I'll use a phrase as opposed to one single word. I get it. Okay. And I'm going to say that for this instance, I think Carson Wentz trade changed everything.
Okay.
In a sense of the cap hit.
Right. Right.
obviously. So we had a surprise release of Matt Ioannidis, which
Yeah.
I thought personally should have got cut. But after we didn't resign Tim Settle, I figured that we would have kept one or two,
Right. 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 One or the
right?
other, because that was your depth.
So I think what happened was they cut Ioannidis. They should have signed first Tim Settle and then cut
Ionitis.
Ioannidis, but I
Right.
think they did flip flop and they ended up losing both
Right.
in that situation. And then you had Eric Flowers released.
Yeah. Which I get. There was
So
a $10 million cap hit is high. I get that.
right, right, right. So I think what they're doing going into free agency, why they haven't signed many players, is I want to say they want those comp picks for next year. I know they want that third back from Sheriff,
Yeah.
knowing
Yeah.
that we're going to lose a third or second next year because of the Wentz
Yeah.
trade.
Right.
So I figure they want that back so they can equal that out.
Right.
And obviously we'll get one for Settle, maybe a 6th or 7th round comp pick. Maybe that the Andrew Norwell might cancel that
Yeah, that
out.
might cancel it out. Yeah,
Or might
and they're
cancel
not
out.
getting the 7th from McKissick anymore, of course.
Yeah, maybe Ricky Seals might get a 7,
I'm
barely.
not sure.
So I think Ron's keeping in line with that, and then also I think he's going for the retread. I know he believes that cuts will be made. You think of Star Lutelli,
Latulele, I
yeah,
think.
Latulele, whatever his name is.
Something. Star L.
He's been cut. Bobby Wagner, he's cut. He's still out there.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking he's going to look for some cap casualties, and then also the third thing I think is he wants. One thing I admire about Ron is they do develop these guys for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You look at past years where they could have signed the safety Trey Boston, I believe, was
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Well, yeah,
And
yeah.
instead they went with Jeremy Reeves.
Same
And
same
Jeremy
with
Reeves,
Justin Reed. Or was it
yeah,
Justin?
yeah, same with Justin Reed, yeah.
Was it? Is that his
Or
name? Eric Reed. Eric Reed.
Eric Reed,
Eric Reed.
Eric
Yes.
Reed. Same with Eric Reed, and he could have signed him, but instead they went with Jeremy Reeves, and Jeremy Reeves performed, and they ended up making that playoff push. So I want to say this year they're going to look into building their own, knowing that they already have that rock, that status, that continuity. I think of Rambling with Rio. I saw the him with Cam Curl, and what stood out to me was the offseason who he was working with. He said Derek Forrest. I think Derek Forrest will be one of those guys who steps up, given the time and the system. And I think same as Reyes, maybe they feel that Reyes is ready. Maybe they feel that John Bates is ready to take that next step. I don't know, but I know these guys they like promoting their own guys before they take a hit for someone in free agency, unless it's an immediate need. And I think Ron is still burnt from last year. And that's going to like make him reserve. He's like, look, I got out of character last year. I spent more money than what I should. This year,
right.
definitely not spending nothing. We're going to stick to it.
I guess so. And I mean, I don't know if I agree with it, if I'll be honest, because part of the reason why is because if I look at this team, and again, the offseason is not over. They upgraded at quarterback. Yes, they probably went from somewhere between 28, 32 in terms of quarterback play to what I hope what should be somewhere between 14 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an upgrade, but how many wins does that account for?
Mm-hmm.
And then, it accounts for some, but how many? But their big thing was depth, was how deep the team was, how deep the roster was. And I agreed with them. I mean, going from, they didn't really have injuries in the D lines, but I mean, at the defensive tackle spots, but going from Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne to Matt Ioannidis, Tim Settle wasn't a big drop off.
Right.
Going from Brandon Sheriff, Eric Flowers to Wes Schweitzer, it wasn't a big drop. You didn't feel too bad about it. And we saw that throughout the season, right? Now this year, and we'll see what they do, but right now, as of right now, they're going from John Allen, Deron Payne to a couple guys who have never taken a snap in the NFL. And they're going from, Andrew Norwell or Wes Schweitzer to Sadiq Charles or maybe Keith Ishmael. And so now I feel like more than your starters took a hit, I feel like your depth took a hit. I think you made a good point where you talk about like a Derek Forrest and maybe a Khalil Hudson, where maybe they feel like they can fit into that role that they released Landon Collins. And, I think that there is a balance between what they're doing where you say we have some guys, we took them in later rounds, we want to give them a chance. I'm all for that. But then also saying, but we need some, insurance plans, or we need some type of contingency in case it doesn't work out. But right now, if you don't make those additions and you roll with what you got and it doesn't work out, people are going to say, well, you had all offseason to add some people. You didn't have to pay a lot. You just add some players at some positions of need where you needed some depth, and you didn't. And then if they don't win, and those positions were weaknesses again, specifically middle linebacker or a backup defensive tackle or offensive guard, people are going to point right to that and say, well, why didn't you sign anybody? And so that's kind of why I don't agree with it.
See, my thing with that is, I think you can find that depth for the product. It's not like Ioannidis had 10 sacks or
Yeah.
Tim Settle had 10 sacks. 10 sacks. They're taking up money, and like I said, Tim Settle's deal was very manageable. We definitely could have. I think we should have met that. Now Ioannidis for $8 million for what he was getting paid.
Yeah.
For how he played, he didn't. I don't think you could pay him at that price.
No,
I think
I agree with that.
a James Smith-Williams or Daniel Wise, who I think did very good in the second half of the season. I think you could find that. I think you could find 4 sacks, 5 sack production from a guy that's not getting paid $8 million.
I agree.
So that's why I'm not. That's why I'm not blown. And as far as the O-line, I mean, they've replaced and
they deserve the benefit of the doubt on the offensive line. I'll give you that. I agree also with the Ioannidis, and he had almost a $7 million cap hit, and really didn't have a great year last year, and then came off an injury the year before. For me, and it's like, maybe this won't end up mattering that much, but why didn't you just pay Tim Settle 2 years, $9 million? He was 24 years old. He was homegrown, and also he didn't get a lot of snaps last year, but he had shown prior to that and the year before that when given the opportunity, he could be, an asset. But I don't know why you offered him 1 year, $3 million, which is apparently what they offered him. Didn't offer him 2 years, 9, 2 years, 10. I mean, really negligible amounts, and then release Ioannidis and then add somebody else. It's to say, even if you do add Star Latulele, well, he's like 32, versus a Tim Settle who's 24. So those are the sort of things I'm questioning. Now I'll say this: really, nothing that they've done or haven't done has affected ultimately what I think their potential is this year. The moment we knew what they were doing at quarterback, I settled in at what I expect this year, and really, there's nothing else they could do now in free agency or in the draft that will affect that, because I think quarterback is the biggest one. But I'm just it's kind of curious, some of the decisions and how they're getting to them.
Yeah,
I just think
I don't know.
You were paying $28 million for 2 guards, and now you're paying like 7. So that's great. I'll give them credit for that. I need to see what they're going to do behind Payne and Allen, and behind Sweat and Young too.
Yeah, see that's the thing. Well, I think James Smith-Williams, and I think they like what Shaka Tony brings as far as that.
I would just, and I think that's okay, but like, you look at these teams that are contending, and they have a better rotation than that. They have 2 guys, and then they have a 3rd guy, and then they have those guys like.
That's because they're an attractive destination. I think where Ron has to get is we have to get to that point of respectability. So you're going to have hope guys like a William Bradley King, who you developed last year, or Shaka Tony, who played well.
Yeah.
I know he played well against the Seahawks. And then James Smith-Williams, who's pretty interchangeable. But they're going to have to figure that out. I think depth is a problem now amongst the defensive line. But I'm hoping they can just find some guys with the motor.
Yeah.
And we still got Casey Toohill, but I don't know what he brings. He's just, he did. The thing is, they did well without.
They did better without Chase Young.
They did better without Chase and Sweat.
I don't want to put the blame on them, but there wasn't a huge drop off. But
if you just find guys who can fit your gap and do what they're supposed to do and not make plays out of the scheme, which it seemed like they did during that 4-game stretch, that 4-game win streak, then that's what they may be thinking. Or they feel like they can find what they need in the draft. I know what linebacker reports are saying that they like the linebacking class a lot.
So, and my thing is, okay, so that's fine if you like the linebacker. So I'll be honest, personally, and you haven't heard me say it on this show. If you watch, again, Rio's show, you've heard me say I don't care less about the defense. I personally, and maybe this isn't practical, I don't want to see them take a linebacker in the first 2 rounds, even though I know it's a need. I would have preferred they address that in free agency.
Right. Right.
But maybe they do take a linebacker in the second round. That's fine. And a young linebacker, yeah, he can come in and succeed. But we're talking about Mike linebacker. We're not talking about Will, where you can just let your athleticism go. We're talking about the mental part. Do you really want a rookie starting at Mike? Like, do you want to rely on that? If it comes to that, if injuries lead to that, you want to have a guy ready, a rookie ready. But do you want to say, our plan going to this offseason and then going into the season is for not even a first round, not even an early first round, a second round rookie linebacker to start at Mike for us? I don't think that's a good plan. I think you bring in a guy like an AJ Johnson, maybe, who has done it, had some injuries, and say, okay, well, we're going to get him and we're going to add a young guy and see which one's better. But to just say we're going to bring in a rookie, so we're going to have a second-year player who did nothing last year in Jamin Davis and a rookie, I do like building through the draft 100%, and I love having young players. But what if it doesn't work out the way you wanted to when you could have signed guys for not much? There's a middle linebacker out there who would sign in Washington, who would be cheap, who would at least make you think, well, we've got something. Not a great player, but a player who knows how to play middle linebacker in the NFL. That's what I think.
You got John Bostic out there, so
there's
but
got to
look,
be better than that.
the thing is, there's going to be people that are going to get cut coming up soon. So I know that's what
there's people out there now.
Yeah, but Wagner,
I mean, I don't think Wagner would sign here. No, I'm not.
I
I'm
would
not
hope
talking
it
about
does.
Wagner.
That's what I want.
I would love
I feel
that.
like if you can't immediately upgrade and you're going to get the same production from a rookie that you would get like Bostic, there's no point in signing Bostic.
Yeah, I agree. There's no point in signing Bostic. There's somebody
so
out
get
there.
The same prediction with upside, with someone with upside, like you said, the unknown.
You're using my words against me. I feel that way about quarterback. At linebacker, we got to find somebody. He may not be great in coverage. He may be a middle average linebacker.
Yeah.
But he is at least a player can play it in the NFL. What if we draft Chad Muma in the second and he looks great in college? He comes out, he can't grasp it. He's thinking just like Jamin Davis was, and you just throwing him in the fire essentially. Why not just sign someone for a very cheap deal? And again, maybe they will. So again, all of this might not matter.
Yeah.
But if you're going to, why hasn't it happened? Also, because what would be the holdup? Like, obviously, Bobby Wagner is taking his time to decide where he wants to go, and he's going to be very expensive. So that's different. But all these other guys, they're not Bobby Wagner. They will sign with Washington. So
how much would you pay for Wagner?
I would. Personally, I'm not exactly sure. I guess what the going rate is for middle linebacker. I would pay him probably somewhere in the 13 to 16 a year range because I think that's not at the top. I don't think that's at the Darius Leonard, Fred Warner level. I think it's slightly below that because he's older. But I also wouldn't sign him to a long deal. I'd sign him 2 years. 2 years. I don't know, $28 million. I think I'd have to look at the contracts, but something like that, or maybe 3 years, but you could cut him after 2, something like that. But I mean, I try not to get too stuck on on paper, but I think there are strategic moves that make sense for your team. And again, I don't think Bobby Wagner would sign her, but hypothetically, if he would, that would make more sense for this team than really anything else they could have done in free agency. Versus, a wide receiver. Like, sure, I'd love Allen Robinson, but that wouldn't really make sense because you got to pay Terry McLaurin. You can't pay, you don't want to have so much tied up a gap. Drafting a wide receiver makes sense because you also cannot draft another linebacker in the first round. No, you can't draft back-to-back linebackers in the first round, especially with an earlier pick.
You can't.
So I don't know, man. I just feel like Rivera is really like, he's like putting his reputation at stake largely because you have people who will question the Wentz trade. And then on top of that, like if you signed a bunch of people would question that. And if you sign nobody, like they're not really playing the middle ground. You know what I mean? They're not really like flying under the radar by going through the middle. They're on one extreme. And they're on the extreme. If they had signed a bunch of people and then it didn't work out, they get killed for that. If you sign nobody and it doesn't work out, I don't know. But I also think that there is a mindset of kind of turning over this roster still. Getting rid of a guy like Landon Collins. He didn't sign him. A guy like Ioannidis, he didn't bring him in. Like they're keeping the guys, the Cam Sims, like they re-signed him. J.D. McKissick, who they brought in. But I think that they're still trying to turn this roster over.
Tim Settle too. He
Yeah, Tim
wasn't
Settle. That's right, another guy. But again, to me,
Sheriff.
doing that just to do that doesn't make sense. Doing it
Right.
for players where it makes sense makes sense. So not paying Sheriff makes sense. He didn't want to be here either. I
Right.
forget that guy.
Right.
But a guy like Settle, if you came to Tim Settle long before free agency and said, here's 2 years, $9 million, I think he's taking that deal.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Why wouldn't he
sure.
want to be here?
Right.
Especially, and then if getting Carson Wentz changed your plans so significantly, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. Did you have a plan? Like, did they have a plan for if we do this and then a plan for if not? Or was it like, this is our plan? Oh, we're getting him. Oh, that's okay. It's cap, it's 28 million. Okay, man. All right. Well, now we're going to have to do this, this, and this. Did you have a plan already in place for if that happened or not? I don't know. I don't know, Tay. I don't know. But
it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for sure. But one thing I am interested in is the fact that we have our own guys, and let's see what they can do. I'm really excited for Hudson. Has to step up this year. He has to step up.
Yeah, like I'm all for giving guys who you drafted even later opportunities. Because sometimes that's all it takes. So I agree, he has to step up.
You look at the Rams. The Rams are hitting on all their 4th and 5th round.
Right. And you look at the Seahawks and the Legion of Boom and all that, right?
Yeah, they're hitting on it.
Right. So I'm cool with that. And they could end up looking really smart if things like that work out, But it is a curious strategy. It is an interesting strategy, Tay. Because you don't even have a Logan Thomas and a J.D. McKissick this year.
Yeah,
you don't have a Curtis Samuel and a William Jackson this year. You have nothing this year.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's like, okay, here's my question for you then. Like, they upgraded to Carson Wentz, yes. But do you feel like this team is much closer to a Super Bowl now than it was at the end of the season or before last season? That's kind of how I'm thinking in terms of.
I think it depends on if Wentz can get to a level what they think they can get him to, or what they believe they can get him to. I would say they're playoff. I would say 10-win team at max.
I mean, they have to be.
What I need to see this year is they're comfortably in the playoffs. Like, I don't want to see we got to win the last 2 games. No, they need to be 10 and they need to be about 9-5 heading into week 15. That's what I want to see this year. I don't want to see, we always had on a 10-game win streak or a 6. No, I want to see them comfortably in the playoffs throughout the whole year. That's what fair. I want to see this year.
That's fair.
And I don't care if they lose in the first round, but I want to see that they're comfortably in the playoffs. like we're not out of the playoff race at all. That's what I'm expecting this year. And I think next year, depending on what they add with 11, that's why pick number 11 is huge. And I'm sure we'll discuss our new route as far as going to in the draft. We used to be quarterback, but now we're taking a different route. But that's why number 11 is huge this year. You have to get a key piece.
You do.
We missed our first round pick last year. Didn't help us that much.
No.
The first round pick before that, he helped us. But I mean, he only had about 8.5 sacks, but he was a game changer, Chase Young.
He didn't help us last year at all.
He didn't help us last year. So we need production, immediate production. And my thing is, where can you get immediate production at the first pick this year? And I believe the most where you can tell you got immediate production for your first round pick is wide receiver.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, I'm with you. I mean, we might as well just transition to that conversation.
Yeah, we might as well. But what I'm saying is they need to be, I don't think it got them to the closer to Super Bowl yet.
Yeah.
But I need to see comfortability going into the playoffs, like 9-5, 9-3, 9-6. I need to see that throughout the season, above 500, throughout the season.
Right. I think that's fair. Like, there are certain things they can't do in free agency that teams like the Bills, like the Chiefs, like, the Rams, where they're just super aggressive. Like the Rams adding Allen Robinson is ridiculous. But they can do that because, like, you're already built, so you could just do whatever you want. And I understand that Washington is not built, so they can't just move that way. I get that. It is critical, like you said, that they get a day one contributor in this draft, like you said.
For sure.
Because look at the Bengals. I mean, just as one example, but there's plenty. But their top 2 picks from their last 2 drafts were their 2 best players. And then you look at Washington, and they got nothing from their last 2 first-round picks. They got nothing from their 2019 first-round pick. They got next to nothing from their 2019 first-round pick this past year, Montez Sweat.
Mhm.
So then you have to go back to 17 and 18 with John Allen and Deron Payne, who you did actually
Yeah.
get something
Right.
from. But then we're
Mhm.
talking about 19, 20, 21. We're talking about 4 first-round picks that you got almost really nothing from last season.
Mhm.
So this year, on top of the fact that you need something, on top of the fact that it's a position where you can see a lot of immediate
Yep.
success,
Yep.
I think that the value will be there at 11. And if there's a way to, so we're both on board with going wide receiver. I know best player available, depending on how the board falls, but realistically, the board is going to fall where one of the best players on the board will be a wide receiver.
Yep.
I think Kyle Hamilton will be gone. They don't, edge rusher would not be a position you take that high. Tackle would not be a position you take that
Mhm.
high. Do not take a guard at 11.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right. So there's no tight ends there. There's no running backs there. And you're not taking a quarterback. So we're talking wide receiver, cornerback. But when you look at cornerback, you took a guy in St. Juiced last
Yep.
year who's an outside corner. You have a
Mhm.
guy in Kendall Fuller last year who struggled at nickel, played better
Mhm.
outside corner. You have a guy in William Jackson who is an outside corner. Who's the nickel back at 11 that you're taking? There is
Mhm.
none. You're not taking a nickel cornerback at 11. So
Well,
it doesn't make sense to me at that when you say, "Oh, we'll take the best player." Derek Stingley's available. Okay, but then where does he play? Then you're.
mhm.
I just think you go wide receiver.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I just think that's that you prepare for that because on top of the fact that I think the value will make sense there, Tay,
Mhm.
just look at the league and where it's going. I mean, where it is, not even
Mhm.
where it is and where it's continuing to go. It's an offensive firepower and opportunistic defense. That is the league. Okay. The Chiefs defense started off terribly last year, as
Mhm.
bad or worse than Washington's. And then they turned it around similarly to how Washington's did halfway through the season. But the difference between the Chiefs and Washington, the Chiefs have all them offensive weapons,
Right.
that can start making plays while their defense
Right.
suddenly becomes not great, but just middle. Washington's defense became average, but then their offense was bad.
Right.
Give me a stacked offense. Give Carson Wentz a stacked group of weapons, the best
Mhm.
he's ever had.
Mhm.
And so I just think that would make sense there. The only thing I'd be okay with, Tate, is at 11. It's possible that no wide receivers go in the top 10. I
Yeah,
won't say
that's
it's
very possible.
likely, but it's definitely possible. And, I'm sure they'll have their guys who they like. We have our guys who we like, Tay, and maybe we won't go super in depth with that now. But, you know, I think that the door would also be open for you to say, hey, we like this guy at 11, but we also like this guy if we trade back and get a second and getting him plus an extra pick too
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
taking that trade back somewhere into the later teens and then getting a guy you still like and
Mhm.
adding a second round pick. I think that one of those two, but you got to get a player who can help you immediately. And I think that position would be at wide receiver. People talk about De'Ami Brown, third round pick last year and all that, but I just don't like going into the season with expectations for players who contributed nothing last year to suddenly become major contributors.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't like that type.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think, like you said, I think 11, you got to go receiver or the option to trade down. I think we're in a pretty good spot with them handling the quarterback position where they can trade back.
Right.
And then in the second round, I mean, tight end, do you go tight end
Yeah, do you
second
go
round,
tight end? Do you go
a
do you
move tight end, a chess
move tight
piece?
end? Do you go, maybe that's where they would go with the linebacker. Like personally, I'd
Yeah.
prefer an
Yeah.
offensive player, but if the value, whatever, who's best player available. Look, people may not agree with me. I think if Kenneth Walker, if the best running back in the class, if no running backs have gone by
Mhm.
47 and you have a chance to take the best player at his
Mhm.
position in the draft at 47, I would
Mhm.
love a guy like Kenneth Walker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I think you put Carson Wentz in the best situation to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is already, some people say, the best supporting cast he's had. And I think at 11, you have to get immediate impact.
Yeah.
And a couple guys I know that come to mind is Garrett Wilson,
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah.
Olave,
Olave.
Treylon Burks.
Right.
But I really like those Ohio State guys, man. I
Yeah.
think they can change the game with Wentz um, escapability.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can see
Off
a lot
script.
of I want off script plays. I want a
Yeah.
guy that can get loose like a four
Right.
three. Like both of those guys have it, and they
Yeah.
can I think Wilson would be the perfect fit here.
Yeah.
He can line up in the backfield with Samuel,
Right.
dual wings. I
Right.
mean, you could do so
You
much
can do a lot
more.
with him,
You do a
and
lot
and
with
and
him.
and
Man.
and 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 the ability to create space for yourself
Right.
is so critical because those are guys can scheme wide receivers open all day. Like Kyle Shanahan can scheme a guy open. Look, Scott Turner can scheme guys open all day, right? And so that's part of the game. But on 4th and 4, in a critical game at the end of the game, and it's just man across the board, and you can't really scheme anybody open. You just need your guy to win. Give me the guy who will win, right?
Yep.
Give me that guy. And when I look at those Ohio State guys, those are the guys who will win. There's other guys too, but just starting with them, yeah. I think it would be tough I think for them to make a wrong decision there, but they just need to make sure that they get the best player at that position when they pick.
And then to your Dayami comment, I agree with you 100%. You cannot bank on him.
Right.
However,
yeah,
he could be the cherry on top.
he could
If he does
exactly.
develop, oh my goodness.
Exactly. That could be fantastic because, to Diami's credit, he didn't really get a fair shot at what was supposed to be his game last year.
Right.
And now you've got a quarterback where you will get those deep shots. And so, look, maybe Dyami Brown is more of a situational deep threat. Maybe he's a 30 catch a year guy. Maybe he's a backup Z, something like that. Okay. That's still, that's still something. So I like that. But what I want is 2 1s. You draft a guy, people say get a wide receiver 2. You don't draft a wide receiver 2 in the first. You draft another 1. Terry McLaurin's a 1. Great. Give me 2 1s and Curtis Samuel, right? And hopefully a Dyami Brown who can develop into something.
Yeah.
And then I love Ken Sims still on the roster there because he has shown that he has some value on the roster. That's what I want.
And Dyami can be your jump ball guys. Everybody's like, oh, we want that. And I was a part of this crowd. Oh, I need the 6'5" Drake London.
Right.
But Dyami, he was very good at contested catches.
Yeah, he was.
He's about 6'2".
Yeah.
Now, Michael Pittman's about 6'4". But I think, Wentz is going to give him opportunities to go up and get
Wentz
the ball.
will give guys chances.
So you don't necessarily need a 6'5" guy out there to go get it. Give me a guy who can, like you said, Todd, who can on 3rd and 4, man-to-man across the board. I need a guy who can make a slant, boom, get in and out of his breaks, get open, and take it to the house for 50-something yards, And to me, those 3 guys is, and we'll do a breakdown later on of a mock draft or something like that, but it'll be Garrett Wilson, Curse Olave, and Treylon Burks as those 3 guys. I don't want to Drake London. And yes, it's cool with the jump balls, but we need guys who can separate and speed. We need speed.
Yeah, yards after the catch, explosive plays was critical last year. It was just a huge element of the game that was missing. So that's what I want. I want, because I don't want to protect Carson Wentz I don't want him to be a game manager. I don't want him to just hand the ball off. No, protect him by just giving him the best offensive line and the best weapons you can give him. And then let him go out there and throw the ball. He has some ugly picks, but he threw 7 all year. Obviously, there's some that were dropped. Every quarterback has some that were dropped, but he's got some fantastic throws. So basically, Carson Wentz has the potential to be a playmaker, but that really only works if you're playing with other playmakers. It's maximized if you're playing with the playmaker, right? Russell Wilson and all those plays aren't happening to, some random guy. But a Tyler Lockett or a DK Metcalf, okay, there we go. Well, give me that.
Yeah.
Create an explosive offense. And also, they want a vertical downfield offense. They want to have that part of the game. Fantastic. Okay. Invest in the offense because they really haven't done it that much, not significantly, right? Not with early draft picks and not by the most money they've spent was on Curtis Samuel. So
can you think of when's the last time we had a bomb? Besides that week 1 against Philly
in 2019.
In 2019, but that wasn't really a bomb. That was 70 yards, I think. So that was But Wentz puts those things right at the 2-yard line.
Yeah. Carson Wentz can put that ball.
They already in the end zone.
Yeah.
I want something like that.
And so you watch week 17 and some Carson Wentz cooled down some and they kind of took the ball out of his hands, but I don't know. I think the Colts kind of didn't really do that right. They didn't find a good balance. But in that week 17 game against the Jaguars, where he did have his struggles, he also made some throws that his receivers did not help him and catch. He made some throws that, where Paris Campbell didn't come down with it, or where T.Y. Hilton, who's now in his 30s, is not making that play, or Michael Pittman, who was solid, who had some mental lapses, wasn't making the catch. Okay, well, let's give him those playmakers who will do that.
Yeah.
And a guy like Garrett Wilson, who kind of, and you've seen comparisons, but also watching him kind of sometimes the way he moves gives me Odell Beckham vibes.
Oh
Give him a
man.
guy who will, a quarterback who will give a guy chances, and then a guy who will capitalize on those chances. That's just the most perfect duo.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think Terry McLaurin is that guy. We saw him on contested catches last year, uh, but get another one. Like just get another one. I don't think that wide receiver is a quote unquote weakness right now, but I also wouldn't call it a strength. But if you get a guy in the first round at 11 who becomes a stud, it becomes a real strength for you. And I mean, we always wonder why the Cowboys offense is so good and stuff. Okay, well, yeah, Dak is good, but it helps when you're playing with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, right? On top of a running back who's good, right? So, put Dak Prescott on Washington last year or on the Colts last year, and I think he won't be a bad player, but I also think that they won't have the number one offense in the league, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
I think
There.
if you get Wilson at 11, I'm sure Terry's banging. If I'm Terry, I'm banging the table. Coach, get
Yeah.
me Wilson, get me Olave. They are
Right.
good guys,
Yeah.
and please, please, they have the best off. They have the best weapon in the NFC
In
East,
the
hands
AC. Yeah, no,
down.
they do because the Cowboys,
Yeah,
Gallup's coming off an ACL,
yeah,
Cooper's out. You got Devontae Smith. The Eagles probably take a receiver too with one
yeah.
of their three, I
Hmm.
bet.
Hmm.
And then the Giants, like I don't know, the Giants should have better weapons, but I don't know, it's not working out. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think it's very possible. And then, like I said, once you get into the second round, I'll tell you what I would do. And now I'm a fan, I'm a spectator, right? I'm a commenter. I'll tell you what I would do is in the second round, I'd go grab a guy like Trey McBride or Isaiah Likely, a tight end. Carson Wentz can love those tight ends. A
Hmm.
move tight end, a guy like John Bates is your blocker. Get me a guy who will kind of block, but then who will get downfield, catch the ball, and then a tight end who can
Right.
make something happen after the catch.
Oh my
Give me
goodness,
that.
Ron.
I that's what I would be for. I'm all for a wide receiver tight end in the second around
Oh, me
47. I
too.
think that's where the value is there, especially you're not going to see them go much earlier. So I think it's great value at that point.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
draft
It
night's going to
turned
be
out
interesting.
it turned out being a great spot for us. I talked to my friend; he's a Rams fan,
Yeah,
and he's like, "Man, 11 is a good spot for y'all because
it's a good
somebody's
spot.
going to drop.
Somebody's going to
You'll
drop.
get the
Yeah,
first receiver, or you'll get,
yeah,
Kyle Hamilton may drop, or
right.
whoever.
Because you
A
look at it
quarterback
last
may
year.
drop.
Michael
You know,
Parsons was the one who dropped last year, right? We're
yeah,
picking at
yeah,
11. What he got picked at? What 11? I
yep.
think.
I think so.
Right? The Cowboys traded back one spot, I think,
Right,
right?
they were at 10, and they
Something
moved back.
something like that, right? So,
Yep.
yeah. Who's that player that will drop this year that will make sense for us? And I mean, I just know where I stand. Screw a defense. I don't care about
Yeah,
you should be able to fix the defense with what you have. I strongly believe that. I don't think it'll be top 5, but
yeah.
you should have a defense that can be good enough to get you in the playoffs with what you
Right,
have.
right.
Offensively, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Yeah, I think if they do go receiver at 11, it's the last thing I have to say.
Yeah.
If we do go receiver at 11, I think this will be on paper, this would be the best offense that we've had since Deshaun Jackson, Pierre
Yeah.
Garcon,
Jordan
Jordan
Reed,
Reed,
Kirk Cousins,
Kirk
Jamison
Cousins,
Crowder,
James Crowder. Yep.
Fat
Who's the
Rob
running
for
back?
that 1 year. Huh?
Who's the running back?
I think it was Fat Rob 1 year.
Fat Rob
Yeah.
for 1 year.
His 1 year,
So
it was Matt. Who was it? Yeah, it was Fat Rob's the only one I really remember.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, I
that's
know,
what
I
I'm
agree.
saying.
I agree. Yeah, it would be the best. It would be the best. Those were great times, but I think the defense is more talented.
Oh yeah.
That defense was really bad, didn't have a lot of talent. This defense has a lot of talent, just because. And this will be my last thing. The reason why I'm saying invest in the offense is because just look at what Rivera and then before him, look at how much investment has been put in the defense already. 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21, all first round picks. They went to the defense. You
Mm-hmm.
paid William Jackson big money last year. You paid
Mm-hmm.
Kendall Fuller big money the year before
Mm-hmm.
that. You signed Bobby McCain, right? So, that like they've invested in the defense with draft picks and with money. Offensively, they signed Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissick. They signed Curtis Samuel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They drafted Sam
Yeah.
Cosmi in the second round.
Yeah.
Like there is nowhere near the same level of investment
Yeah. I
that's gone in the
mean,
offense. And then now they drafted Diami in the third, they drafted St. Juice in the third, and then now they've traded a quarterback. So I'm saying the investment has been made in the defense. Fill in where you need to fill in on the defense because the defensive line still needs to be your strength. You
mm-hmm.
have cornerbacks who should be your strength because they're both
Mm-hmm.
getting paid to play well. You have
Mm-hmm.
a guy in Cameron Crowe who should be a good player for you. You don't have that free safety that I'd love for you to have, but invest in the offense because if you can at least have a 16th offense and a 16th defense, then I think that you can be a playoff team. Last year they were in the 20s. Get both of them up. The defense should be able to get up to middle the in the NFL with what they have, with just better scheme, better coaching. The offense needs more talent. That's where I stand. Yeah. So that's how I feel about how the offseason is.
And I think Ron knows that. I think, like you said, man, I'm excited about this year because I want a receiver. Like I know we got Terry in the third, but I want a receiver like first round, like Justin Jefferson. Like give me that guy right now.
Right. Justin Jefferson.
Be happy, you know.
Yes, exactly. Like day one dog. Immediately, week one, day one training camp, week one of the season.
Right.
Not just training camp, because we've seen some dogs in training camp. Week one of the season, dog. That's what I want.
Yes. Oh my
wide receivers can come in, Tate, and they can get going immediately.
Yes, sir.
Immediately. Yes, sir. So give me that guy. Figure out which one of these guys is that, and then give me that one. That's what I want.
For sure.
Yeah, we're on the same page, man. So that would be great, and I think then I'd be more excited to watch Carson Wentz play, because he would have the best group of weapons he's ever had, and you would have a head coach and offensive coordinator who chose their quarterback, chose their weapons, and then it would, at least at that point, going into the season, it would be cohesive. It would be one line where everyone should be on the same page. So that's what I want. That's what I want. That's all I want.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm excited.
I'm always excited for I guess. I don't know. On the Carson Wentz thing, you look at it, but they put themselves in the spot, but it was a tough spot, Tay. So I'm just rolling with it.
The thing is, if they hit, they're gonna look like geniuses.
Yeah, if you can get they would. I agree, and I would love for them to look like geniuses, because
me too.
Some positive.
They deserve it every once in a while.
Yeah, just for once, because they so rarely look like geniuses. So if just one time they could, on a very public stage, in a very public way, look, because people are going to be watching that trade and comparing any rookie we could have had that we didn't get, Matt Ryan, just anything that connects, wherever Baker Mayfield goes, any similar move that could have been made, they're going to be watching. If Wentz has the best outcome of those guys, boom, they look smart.
Yeah.
If he has the worst outcome of those guys, it's going to be real ugly.
It's going to be hard for him to fail, because the plus side about all, like last thing, we haven't talked in a while, but last thing, the plus side is that if they do, they're going to set the table for Wentz. So next year, if he fails with this, you're in a hole, but you can get rid of that and you can move up. You got some guys, and then at that point, the weapons are already there.
Yeah,
you just need a guy that can plug in.
Right, and so. How BB said last thing. This is for real. My last thing.
All right, that was my last. So go ahead.
Okay, this is my last thing. But if you can, like this year, you get your other weapon. You draft someone 11, whatever. You add players in the draft, and you ultimately end up this season 9 or 10 wins and in the playoffs. And Wentz this season works out where you say, well, all right, boom, we're running it back 2023, right? And I'm assuming at that point you probably don't have your second round pick, but still, you've got your first, your third, whatever. Free agency rolls around, his cap number goes down some, salary cap goes up, all that stuff. I think then you can start to be more aggressive like those contenders.
Right.
I think that's when you can start to say, all right, hey, we're going full swing now.
Right.
Like we're just going for it all, because we believe we've got the quarterback, we've got the weapons, so we're going for it now. So I just think that this year you have to get to 9 or 10, and you have to be the 7 or the 6 seed. Anything less than that is a complete failure.
I agree.
But if you get it, that's your step to just go big time and swing big. So all right.
So you think the fourth year is go big or go home?
Yeah, I think that's what it should be. Yeah. Maybe that's because year one you took too big a step forward. Stunt to their development maybe a little bit. But yeah, year three you've got to take that step where now we're above water. Okay, we're above water. Boom. Year 4. Now we're standing on the water. We're walking on the water at that point. So yeah, that's what I think, Tate. That's for real. My last thing.
All right, that's good.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening as always, and keep your eye out for more breakdown stuff and more videos. This is Todd.
This is Tay.